order. Roll call.
Sorry.
Oh, you got that backwards.
Yeah. Mayor Larkey.
Here.
Councilmember White.
Here.
Councilmember Thompson.
Here.
Councilmember Pryan.
Here.
Councilmember Davidson.
Here.
Councilmember Lawson.
Here.
Councilmember Richardson.
Here.
Councilmember McCallum.
Here.
Councilmember Johnson.
Here.
We have a quorum. Pledge of Allegiance, Councilmember Davidson.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Personal appearance, employee recognition. Right there.
MPO Sean Myers, come this way. I'm Chief Scott Lyons of the Belton Police Department, and I have with me officially MPO? Officially Master Police Officer Shane Myers. He's affectionately known as Sean Myers, sorry. Sean Myers. Sean.
All right, we're starting over.
MPO Sean Myers, sorry. And so he's celebrating 25 years with the city. He's one of our school resource officers, but what you may not know is that he has a background with our special response team. He's one of our firearms instructors. He is also one of our active shooter instructors. In fact, he leads the charge in regards to active shooter. That was one of the things that we changed with the police department and the fire department probably 3 years ago. And so he continues to build that knowledge in those areas. He's made us better because of the kind of service that he brings. This guy works tirelessly. He also works here as security, but I also see him all around town. And I have to say, whenever I'm working and I call you, you seem to be working too. So we're competing. So thank you so much for your years for service. Congratulations. And I know there's a lot of people here celebrating with you. And I apologize for the mistake earlier. I'm just absent-minded.
Thank you, sir.
Thanks.
All right, item 2, recognition, Belton School interns.
Hello everyone, Council, thank you for having me tonight. I am Emily and I am on the HR team here at the City of Belton. I am the recruiter, and one of the really exciting things that I've got to do this past semester is work with the interns at the Belton High School. So I'm going to have those students come on up to the front. Now, something that my boss is really big about is, wouldn't it be cool if? And we thought it would be really cool to have interns coming into City Hall to really shape not only tomorrow's living, working, and playing, but shaping that today and working with the young minds, these generations that are going into the workforce. And so that's what we had the opportunity to do. These students came in and they had the opportunity to experience real life work in a workplace and see how government functions. and they had the opportunity to not only view things that citizens need help with, but also helping the employees in City Hall. So I'm going to pass the mic to each of these young gentlemen, and I'll let them introduce themselves, and then we'll continue on.
Johadred Caldera, student at BHS.
I'm Ricky Frierson, also a student at BHS.
Thank you. We had the opportunity to not only have these two gentlemen at City Hall along with Theo. These students got, again, the opportunity to experience real-life work that these students would do if they were in the workplace. That, along with Ricky, had the opportunity to partner with Brian at the Park and Rec department to do some real-life work that he wants to do in the future. And so we wanted to thank these students today for all of their help with all of the projects and their time at Belton City Hall. So we do have some certificates that we do want to hand out. So Yadi, we will go first. Here is your certificate. Thank you so much for all that you did for the city of Belton. We really appreciate it and are so excited for your future. Thank you. Theo could unfortunately not be here today, but Theo, he was huge in the projects that we did at City Hall. Him and Yadi partnered together to work not only with various tasks at City Hall, but also with our victim advocate, Crystal Beal. And so we had a really great time doing various projects. We also do have Ricky. Again, he worked mainly with Brian Wellborn at the Park and Recreation Department. And so again, thank you so much for all you did. We are so excited for everything that you have going on in your future. Thank you. Tonight, I did also want to shout out Chase in the back and Scott. They are with the Belton High School, the academies, and so they made sure this whole thing could happen, and so they are a huge part of working with the shaping of minds of the next generation. So thank you guys, and I hope you have a great evening.
All right, unfinished business. 1, motion approving the final reading of Bill 2024-18.
An ordinance approving a 5-year service agreement with IDEMIA Identity and Security USA LLC for live scan service subscription.
Present.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any discussion? Is the chief in here? Does he need to say hi?
I was waiting.
Okay, we'll wait a second.
I was waiting on him to come back in.
I didn't even see him gone.
Policemen are supposed to be stealthy. How come we don't see Joe?
I don't know.
Tell me to go. I had to do it.
You gotta be seen.
Everyone wants to see you.
I guess we could come back to this. We already did.
All right. I mean, we got the motion in a second.
We are waiting on the police chief to talk about item 2024-18. He stepped out in the hallway for a second. He'll be back in a minute. We have a motion and a second on the second reading, Chief. Didn't know if you wanted to add anything or?
On, what's the time?
Idemia.
There's nothing that I have to add on that topic. I'm sorry for the delay. We
No,
had a
you're
little
fine. You're
snafu with
fine.
one of our employees that was here and had 30 years. And so, I was talking to him and the family and apologizing.
Okay. Do you want to bring them back in?
How about next meeting?
Go get them.
We can do it
Go get 'em.
next. You wanna go?
We'll go get them. Yeah, if
Okay.
they're here, go get them. We'll do this.
All right.
Any other questions on item 2024-18? Hearing none, roll call.
Councilmember Lawson,
Aye.
Johnson,
Aye.
Thompson,
Yes.
Richardson,
Aye.
Pryan,
Aye.
McCallum,
Aye.
Davidson,
Aye.
yes, White,
Aye.
Mayor Larky.
Yes, motion carries.
Mr. Mayor, members of the council, if you guys wanted to make a motion to suspend the rules and reopen personal appearances to recognize a member of the police department that has 30 years of service, that would be in order at this time.
So moved.
20.
20 years of service.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to suspend the rules and open up personal appearances and employee recognition. You guys are up. Come on.
We apologize for cutting the chief off.
Quick
Wait,
vote.
wait.
Just voice vote
Oh,
real quick.
Yes.
We need a,
Vote.
wait a minute, we need a vote. Quick vote.
Yes.
Yes.
Wanda?
It's a voice vote.
Yes.
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 All right.
Go.
Motion carries.
Chief Scott Lyons for the police department again, and I apologize for the interruption. Orion Mata is a detective with the police department, and he does a lot of special things for us, and we're very proud of him. He's celebrating 20 years. There was a little confusion tonight about him being here, and so but I want to formally recognize him. Thank you for years of service. And the other thing is he's a member of our special response team. He also is a firearms instructor. And on occasion, when I need patrol to do stuff and educate them, he's my guy. And so I appreciate that. And his family is here in the back.
Oh, I appreciate you guys taking the time and sneaking me in here, so thank you. And any pictures of me, I know it's online right now, but I'm frozen. My position. Oh, yeah, there you go. So stop it. In-house only. Thank you, guys.
That was half our crowd. I'm glad we got
I know, they all got up while ago and left. I thought I didn't know what was going on. All right, where are we at?
new business.
New business. One, motion approving the first reading of Bill 2024-19.
An ordinance approving the 20th Amendment to the Old Town Belton redevelopment plan to approve the 1002 Main Street project as redevelopment project 2024-1 and to authorize tax abatements as described therein.
Present.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. You're up.
Thank you, Mayor, members of council. The item before you this evening is the 20th Amendment to the Old Town Belton Redevelopment Corporation redevelopment plan. The applicant owner of 1002 Main Street is requesting a project approval for $16,000 in improvements, primarily exterior at his home. The estimated property taxes with the improvements could increase from about $14.65 annually to $29.82 annually over the possible 10-year abatement period. And although we'll see a short-term decrease in taxes for the taxing entities, the long-term impact is positive by encouraging the reinvestment in downtown. The Old Town Belton Board met on April 3rd, 2024, and gave unanimous approval for the project. I know we have the owner here as well. Because the project is moving forward fairly quickly, he has asked for a second read, if possible this evening, so that he could begin work. Once council gives approval, or if council gives approval this evening, staff will begin drafting all the necessary paperwork, MOU, and other documents that are necessary through the Old Town Board to allow this project to go forward. Happy to answer any questions about this project and look forward to seeing it on Main Street.
Any question? Go ahead.
First of all, I'd just like to say it all looked great, and good luck getting that done through the summer. In all seriousness, it looked awesome. I have a question that's probably not for the applicant, but I didn't see a timeline. So, like, let's say he doesn't get to something, one part of it or all of it for that matter. Is there a timeline on how this works?
There is, so through the or the OTB board policy, we allow for about 2 years for them to complete the entirety of the project. Here recently, because of some changes in the economy, we extended some of those timelines, but we do ask for progress throughout any of the projects that are before the board for approval.
And to follow up what Mike said, the MOU that is required for all applicants to sign if the council does approve does have that 2-year time frame in it. Obviously, it can be extended, but if the extensions go beyond some sort of reasonable point, the Old Town Belton Redevelopment Corporation Board of Directors can terminate the MOU and thus terminate the tax abatement as well.
Perfect, thank you.
Anybody else?
Before the motion, we need to have the public hearing, please.
Oh, all right. Public hearing regarding the proposed 20th Amendment to the Old Town Belton Redevelopment Plan for Redevelopment Project 2024-01 pursuant to Section 353.110.3, subparagraph 2, RSMO. Anybody wish to speak in favor or against this public hearing? Come to the podium and state your name and address. Again, I will ask if anybody would like to speak for or against 2024-19. Hearing and seeing none, public hearing will be closed. Back to any other council debate. Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
I'd like to make a motion for second reading.
Second.
We have a motion and a second for a second reading. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Motion approving the second reading of Bill 2024-19.
An ordinance approving the 20th Amendment to the Old Town Belton Redevelopment Plan to approve the 1002 Main Street project as redevelopment project 2024-1 and to authorize tax abatements as described therein.
Again, any debate?
Need a motion, please?
Oh, sorry.
Second.
You're gonna get fired.
I know.
We have a motion and a second. Now any debate? Hearing none. Roll call.
Councilmember Pryan?
Aye.
Davidson?
Yes.
Thompson? White?
Yes.
Johnson?
Yes.
McCallum?
Yes.
Lawson? Aye. Mayor Larkey?
Yes.
Richardson?
Aye.
Motion carries.
Councilmember Thompson, were you abstaining from that vote?
It was.
Okay,
Yes, it
thank
was.
you.
Item 2, motion approving the first reading of Bill 2024-20.
An ordinance approving the Belton, Missouri Police Department Municipal Jail 2024 housing contract for inmates of the Peculiar Missouri Police Department.
Present.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Go ahead, Chief.
Again, about a month ago, we brought forth a jail contract for Harrisonville PD. And so this is just another one of those agencies that we do jailing for. And Peculiar has been gracious to sign it and send it back to us. And we have a couple more coming. And again, this contract differs from what we've had in the past. It's a lot more detailed in regards to procedures as far as booking the prisoners. We increased our fees after doing a study in regards to what it costs us to book prisoners, feed prisoners, all those little details. And so that's why the price is increased to $63.93 per day. And so this contract, we took it through legal, and the agencies that we actually extended it to, their cities went over these contracts as well.
Go ahead.
I'm naive in this area, but $63.93 seems low. How is that compared to other areas like Kansas City and?
When we did our comparisons with, the sheriff's department just raised their rates, and it's somewhere in the neighborhood of $75 per day per prisoner, which is also a federal rate because they use that rate and get that rate from the federal government when they house a federal prisoner. And so I think our rate is probably comparable. Our facility is not as sophisticated, especially on the technology side, as the county jail, the Cass County Jail.
Any other questions? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Item 3, motion approving the first reading of Bill 2024-21.
An ordinance approving a Crime Stoppers Tips Hotline contract with the Kansas City Metropolitan Crime Commission.
Present.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. You're still up.
This more notably, you'll know it because of the tips hotline that is done by several of the police stations. On occasion, we do use this to generate tips in regards to crime. Several years ago, back in 2021, early 2022, we did a number of posts and social media posts, and also did a request through the tips hotline, and they helped us out gather information on a cold case homicide. This is very valuable to the police department. These monies actually come back to us as far as reward money that is used for the person that's actually the tipster.
Any questions?
I have a question. They don't actually call you, they have to call Crime Stoppers, is that correct?
Yes. They
Okay.
call Crime Stoppers. They're given they can remain anonymous. They're given a number, and then that tip is then shared with whatever agency that has jurisdiction over that tip. And then when we look through those tips, we provide information back to Crime Stoppers, and then they're able to contact that person and arrange for them to receive a payment.
And and I'm pleading ignorance as well. Do you advertise that they must call Crime Stoppers, or is it just assume that you know that?
Yes, that is very much the part of the program, is calling them,
Okay.
so they can remain that objective, anonymous person.
Anybody else? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. 4, motion approving the first reading of Bill 2024-22.
An ordinance approving the reappropriation and revision of the City of Belton fiscal year 2025 adopted city budget.
Present.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. You're up.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Tonight I bring before you the reappropriation of the FY24 to FY25 budget items. The majority of these items are capital items that were budgeted for 24. We weren't able to purchase, so we're moving those to FY25. I also have a few little things. Andrea had requested $5,500 on record management that she didn't spend in 24 that she would like to carry forward to 25. We do have the Compass Health contract. You'll see the $89,000 on the expense side and the revenue side. We will receive a grant for that up to $89,000. Last council, you guys approved the CBA contract. So at the top of my council action report, you'll see all of the salaries and benefits expense to amend the fire budget for the CBA agreement. So with that, I will take any questions.
Any questions?
I'm also asking for a second reading tonight, please.
I was going to ask if you were in a rush.
Yes.
Any questions?
I have just a quick question.
Yes.
Go ahead.
And just so I'm clear on what you just stated, is that these were things that were itemized previously but just not purchased during the fiscal year, and so we're just carrying them over into this fiscal year?
Yes, ma'am.
All right, thank you.
You're welcome.
Anybody else? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
Make a motion for second reading.
Second.
We have a motion and a second for second reading. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Motion approving the second reading of Bill 2024-22.
Present.
An ordinance approving the reappropriation and revision of the City of Belton fiscal year 2025 adopted city budget.
Present.
Second?
We have a motion and a second. Any more discussion? Hearing none, roll call.
Mayor Larkey,
Yes.
Councilmember Johnson,
Yes.
Pryan,
Aye.
White,
Aye.
Richardson,
Aye.
McCallum,
Aye.
Lawson.
Aye.
Thompson,
Yes.
Davidson.
Yes.
Motion carries. Motion, number 5, motion approving the first reading of Bill 2024-23.
An ordinance approving an access agreement between the Port Authority of Kansas City, Port KC, and the Belton Fire Department.
Present.
Second?
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? You're up.
Good evening. This is just kind of a standard, it's one of 2 standard contracts that we have that we can utilize properties and structures around Belton to help enhance our training. It's something that we've done with Port Authority for 8 or 9 years now. I typically like to do it for multiple years since it has to be an ordinance, them being a governmental agency, but they're getting much closer apparently to maybe developing it, so they want it easier out. So they want 1-year contracts at a time. So we use their parking lot for driver's training, and there's actually a couple of the old barracks that we can use for search and rescue. So no cost involved with this. It's just a kind of a house cleaning thing to make sure that we keep something in them.
Any questions? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Motion approving resolution 2024-37.
A resolution authorizing and approving a renewal of the food service agreement between the City of Belton, Missouri, and Belton Regional Medical Center for food services to Belton jail inmates.
Present.
Second?
Motion and a second, and you're back.
This is just an extension of a jail contract that we previously had. We took it out for bid on March 8th and had nobody submit. It was then extended on March 25th to April 9th, and the only one that bid was Belton Regional Medical Center, and so we're very fortunate to have them that will provide that. This contract is a little bit more optional in regards to providing meals. If we need meals, when people have stayed overnight and not bonded out, we can add breakfast, but for the most part, lunches and dinners. And then over the weekend, they will, our longer stays, we do have some ability to keep meals in a refrigerator and then heat them up. So it's a little bit more, it's a little bit better for us and them as far as providing those meals.
Any questions? Go ahead.
You answered some of them already, which is largely around logistics. So it sounds like we have the requirement to go to them to pick it up. Is that correct?
Yes.
And then how do we transport that?
We have a vehicle that the jail uses to bring those back. And so they have given us, I think, the containers. We've actually made some changes with containers, so they're actually microwavable. When in the past it was actually metal and a lot more difficult for us to grab and transport and then take back.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. G, consent agenda. 1 motion not available to approve recommendations noted. Any member of the council may ask for an item to be taken from the consent agenda for discussion and separate action.
Present?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Communication from council. You're up. Sorry, I was in the room tonight.
I don't have anything tonight, thank you.
Councilmember McCollum.
I should have talked to you before this. I might steal a little bit of thunder from you. I attended the Arbor Day event, and I just wanted to give a shout out because that was a really great event. And there's a proclamation from our mayor and the city. There was a memorial tree planted for Kirsten Turnbull. There was the winners of the Arbor Day picture contest were announced, which was actually kind of awesome. If you want to see those, they were, I believe they're at High Blue. Correct me if I'm wrong, Brian. And then And then the Missouri Department of Conservation was there as well, provided some free trees. So it was a really great event. And the thing that I guess I liked the most about it was pointed out by our Missouri Department of Conservation, which was Arbor Day is something that celebrates the future, as tree planting is not typically something that you're going to necessarily enjoy shade or those type of things immediately, whereas a lot of events typically celebrate the past. So just thought that was really neat and thought I'd share that.
I got nothing.
Okay. No Thunder Stolen. Thank you for attending. I couldn't make it because my kid had a football game, so I'm glad you were there. Some upcoming parks things. Cruise nights are back this Saturday if the weather holds out, and I'm looking forward to that. Those are 2 to 6 p.m. on Main. They are hiring right now for grounds crew, summer camp counselors, and lifeguards. So if you've got young folks or you're interested in working with our Parks Department through the summer, there's lots of opportunity there. The big summer event is going to be Carry Nation Days, May 31st and June 1st on Main. There's too much to go through. Some of the highlights: rock band on Friday, country band on Saturday, a drone show, Miss Belton, a 5K. So lots of opportunities to get involved and enjoy our town, and limited vendor spots available for that. And then before our next council meeting, the farmers market will start back up, and that will start May 2nd. Those are Thursdays from 4 to 7. So plenty of things coming up, and looking ahead at the agenda, some exciting parks news coming later.
I just have a question after all that. Farmers market's in the same place?
Yep.
All right.
Assembly of God Church.
Planning Commission gave us the night off last week, so I appreciate that, Matt, and that's all I have.
I attended Arbor Day also on Saturday, and then afterwards I went to the craft sale at the High Blue, and it was great. Lots of vendors, lots of people carrying out bags, so it was a good time.
I just want to say what a learning curve it is to be a new council person, and thank you for your patience, and thank you for your kindness, and we're all going to get through this, and I'm going to learn. Thank you.
We are in the process of planning another Ward 4 event, and I have one question for Council Member Lawson. Will the thing be out?
Yes.
Okay.
The thing lives.
I'm not even going to ask about that.
The 1974 Volkswagen thing for all the weird looks in the room.
Yeah. So, all right. I also attended the Arbor Day and the Christians tree celebration. It was a wonderful thing, and kudos to the parks for putting it on, and Kevin doing such a great job. Gone to several ribbon cuttings this week. Last week and this week. Today was Tassio's Pizza on North Scott. Excellent pizza, so enjoy. Teague Tractor last week, and a great if you need a tractor, they're a great place to go. Lawnmowers, tractors, all kinds of stuff. So, and yesterday, me and the city manager and Public Works attended Earth Day in celebration with Grandview, and we cleaned up 155th around the highway, I-49 area, about an hour and a half. So it's a great deal. So that's all I have. City manager, are you out there?
Mr. Mayor, I don't have anything this week. Thank you.
All right. What? Oh, yeah. Item K, items for review and discussion. Item 1, Central Square update.
Yeah, staff has been working with Central Square since early 2023 on the development of a community development module that would integrate permitting, planning, and neighborhood improvement into the Central Square system, which is currently utilized by finance and in licensing. Staff had previously started working with Tyler Technologies in early 2022, which had an estimated 2 to 3 year time frame for the build out of the new system. With staff transitions in 2022 and comparisons of product options, it was determined that it would be most beneficial and cost effective to build the new community development module off of the pre-existing Central Square platform. That new contract with Central Square was approved by council in March 2023. Staff went through an intensive process in the summer of 2023, creating workbooks that had the flow of every license, permit, project, and code violation type that is currently utilized in the city. to develop the module that works for our processes and procedures. Central Square unveiled that new testing module in January of this year that would allow staff to begin testing the system to work out all deficiencies and errors. We're continuing to do that right now. In March, staff had a call with the Central Square team to discuss the integration of the online payment system. It was learned at that time that this would not be a streamlined process where the community development module would build on the current finance module already in place. That was different than what had been presented to staff in the initial conversations in early 2023. Due to that, staff had to contact the current online payment provider, which is Paymentus, which handles online payments for utility billing, to inquire what we would need to do to add the licensing and community development module to that online payment system. Paymentus relayed to staff that once they're given the go-ahead to proceed with those changes, there's an approximate 14 to 16 week waiting period, followed by a 3-week period for the project lead to review the request, and then another 30 to 90 days to build out that system. With that time frame, the online payment system would not be available until at least October. Staff had initially, prior to this news, had been working towards a go-live date of sometime at the end of May or early June. We did communicate that delay to the Central Square team, and they still would like staff to continue to test and perfect the system by the end of June. This would allow the system to be ready to go live once the online payment system has been updated. Since Central Square already works with and supports Paymentus, that would be easier than going with a different online payment platform. Due to these delays, staff is requesting or proposing to delay the go-live date for Central Square until the online payment system is operational, as that was one of the primary benefits to having the online permitting system. This delay allows staff approximately 4 months to create the necessary training and tutorial documents to assist applicants in submitting their applications online, also making online payments, requesting inspections, and reviewing the documents that the system generates. Additionally, this time period allows for staff to have additional training and staff to train other staff on how to communicate the system to applicants and citizens. As part of this delay, staff is proposing to revise the effective date of the rental registration program from July 1st to January 1st, 2025. The July 1st date was selected for 2 reasons. First, it was estimated that last summer that Central Square would be going live, as I already mentioned, this spring, which would allow the program to start in the portal as opposed to creating a new system that would only be valid for 6 months. The second reason was that the current landlord licenses expire June 30th, which would create a seamless transition from the rental licensing to the rental registration. Without Central Square live by this time, we'd have to start a program and then change that process within 6 months, which would likely lead to frustrations from customers and landlords on changing a process so early in a new program. And then I'll turn it over to Andrea. She can talk a little bit more about her concerns on the business licensing side.
So we were hoping for the new system to be ready by June 1st for our 2024-2025 license period, but we realize that won't be the case now. All city licenses expire June 30th, regardless of when they were issued. We have over 2,000 licenses that will expire on June 30th. They all come due at once, which is very challenging for staff as well as for the businesses. If the business renews in July or December, or if a new license is issued in April, their license will expire June 30th. With the new system, a Code of Ordinances rewrite will be necessary. The license expiration date is one of the items being proposed to change in that code rewrite and have the businesses acquire a 365-day license. Our current licensing system and licensing code requires each business to submit a paper application for renewal. The city clerk's office reviews the application, inputs necessary information, requests additional information, and then inputs the payment. All the paperwork is sent over to finance, where they apply the payment. It's sent back over to the city clerk's office, and each morning staff prints the licenses that were renewed the day before. Our current process is very hands-on. It's labor-intensive. It requires a lot of man-hours over a 4-month period for the city clerk's office and the finance office. Our current system and our current Code of Ordinances only allow for renewal notice letters to be mailed to the businesses. Our current system only allows us to print the licenses, which we in turn mail to the businesses. It is unfortunate that all this happens over the summer when many construction contractors are actively on jobs, so they miss our renewal letters, our reminder letters that we send out. When we found out that Central Square would be delayed, we were of course disappointed, but honestly, it was somewhat good news for the licensing department. As Matt mentioned earlier, Central Square is still asking staff to test the system and continue working on it over the next 2 or 3 months. The delay will allow us to learn more about the system and create the tutorials for the business owners, to create more community awareness campaigns, and to provide more time for the license code rewrite that's going to be necessary. Staff will also need time to set up a computer kiosk in the lobby and the new online licensing, to allow for the new online licensing portal and the permitting portal. Unfortunately, this only gives us 2 options for the 24-25 license renewal period. The first one is to process the license renewals like normal over the summer using the old system, while simultaneously learning the new system, creating a community awareness campaign, rewriting the licensing code. It would require us to start a 24-25 license year and then halfway through change it over to the new system. Obviously, that isn't ideal to change systems halfway through. It would give some businesses a 365-day license, and it would give some businesses a June 30 expiration date license. The second option is to delay the renewals until the new system is functioning, providing staff more time to learn and finalize the new system and to rewrite the code. The option will also give staff time to engage in the community and the businesses to explain the new web portal and the functions that it'll provide. This will allow us also time to communicate with the businesses by email, because the new system is all online and through email, not paper letters and paper forms. It will allow us a time to perfect the product when we do roll it out on January 1. It'll move the bulk of the renewals also to January and February and away from the middle of the summer, and give everybody a 365-day license. On the financial side, the licenses will still be paid for in this fiscal year, so there won't be any lost revenue. Staff considered all these options and is also recommending a delay of the 24-25 license renewal period to January 1, 2025, to be consistent with the rental inspection program and to also provide more time to test and develop the new system. There are a certain set of licenses that will need to be renewed before January, and staff will handle those on a one-on-one basis.
So we presented the current status of the Central Square update and how it impacts licensing and the rental registration program. And we are requesting feedback and direction from council on if there are any concerns with those delays as we've proposed. And then if there are not, staff will prepare all necessary amendments to accommodate the effective dates and postponements.
Any questions? Go ahead.
So the current 2,000 business license, even though they'll go to 365, are going to still all come due at the same time?
They'll all expire in June 30 in a couple of months, and the plan is to allow them to continue to operate with that expired license, knowing that they did have a license, except for the ones that do need to have a license prior. And on January 1, all the information will go out. You're right, the bulk of them will renew in January and February, but there's always those that take longer. And that helps us over time to move that process away from all the renewals happening in June, July, and August.
But any new ones moving forward would
Be 365.
be 365 throughout the year.
And certainly any new licenses that would come between June 30 and December 31st, we would handle individually.
Go ahead.
How does, walk me, I heard you say it would not result in a loss of revenue with the expired license. Can you talk me through how that works?
It's in the same fiscal year, so if they pay in July or they pay in January, it's still in the same budget year. But I will also defer to Casey when it comes to that.
Andrea is correct.
Thank you, Casey.
So even though there's a potential 6-month gap, right, from when that expired to when they need to pay again, that's not seen as a loss of revenue just because it's the same fiscal year?
It's the same fiscal year, that's correct. So there is no loss of revenue. We're just receiving it a little bit later in the year.
Okay.
Go
Matt, I guess this is the question. You haven't sent out anything to landlords or anything yet to
We had sent out an email blast to all the licensed landlords back in January, letting them know, just a reminder of the effective date, but that would be something that we would send out a re-notification. The follow-up with them was going to be, once we had additional information on how the Central Square system would work, we would give them more information on how they would register and request inspections. We're still not that developed far enough into the system to be able to do that yet. And then, of course, with the online payment system not available, that's the biggest holdup right now. So we would send out a new email letting them know that we're proposing to postpone that delay and that it would not impact their current landlord license.
Okay, so they still people could still ask for inspection, and you still have the license in place that if they've got a license, you still have that license in place, is that correct?
We would still have the license in place. The registration and the inspection program would not start. So we would still be delaying any inspections until January 1st as well.
Unless you've got someone who has an issue that they need to have.
Unless there's a request, and that would go through our normal code enforcement process.
All right.
Anybody else? Everybody good with the proposed recommendations?
Yeah,
Yep.
made sense.
There you go.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Comfort Systems final plat.
Yep, staff is currently reviewing a final plat for Comfort Systems Heating and Cooling, which is currently renovating the former RG Federal Credit Union at 128 West Markey Road. Since the property is not platted, a final plat must be approved before a building permit can be issued for a proposed 9,600 square foot building at the rear of the site. That final plat is anticipated to be submitted to City Council in May.
Any questions? Hearing none. Item 3, Dryden Arboretum presentation.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. For those of you who remember about a year ago, Jack Dryden and his family donated 69 acres to the city in which it was purposed parkland. And so for the past 6 months, we've been working with SWT Design to come up with a schematic design for what that park's going to look like. And so last Tuesday, they came to a park board meeting. We recorded the presentation from the architects, and so we're going to play that for you all tonight, and then I'll come back up to answer any potential questions that you might have. Tonight, we've got members from SWT Design. We have Lance Klein and Will Metcalf, and we're super excited, as I know you guys are too. They're going to go through the Dryden land schematic, and they've got a video. And I would like to welcome Jack and his wife to the meeting. They're the donors of this land, and I'm glad you guys were able to make it.
You guys hear me okay? Cool. And great to have you here tonight, Mr. Dryden. I'm Lance Klein, the partner and project manager on this, and my colleague Will step up to take on some of the presentation as well. We've been working really closely with Brian and Kevin and Vanda over the past few months, and feel like we've got a really great project to share with you today. So basically, our kind of agenda for the meeting, we're thinking this will be about a 30-minute presentation. Hopefully it'll go a little bit quicker than that. But we want to talk about the overall goals of the project to start with, sort of our process for design and the things we looked at, both on site as well as with park staff. Ultimately, how that got us to kind of a final design, and then we've got a number of different renderings we want to share of the design, and then kind of close it out with a little bit of an animation and a review of costs and next steps on the project. Some of the project goals came from sort of Jack's vision as well as discussions with park staff, but you know, given the site's history, we wanted to kind of celebrate some of that agricultural heritage. provide a connection between the community and that land, as well as the Cleveland Lake site. And given a lot of the natural assets on the site, we wanted to lean into the kind of ecological aspects of the site and highlight those. We felt like there was a lot of great opportunities with the schools just to the north for them to be able to walk to the site and make it a learning experience. Could kind of expand on the city's offerings of passive recreation, especially trails and nature trails. And then, improvements on this site will also help improve the overall lake and water quality, given the site was ag land. A lot of the fertilizers there contribute to some of the issues there. So we're hoping some of the design changes here will improve that. And this is just kind of one of the sketches that was shared with us early in the process that kind of Jack worked with another local landscape architect on. So the overall process was we looked at the existing conditions on the site. We kind of solidified those goals. You can see those kind of 4 themes of ag heritage, nature, the different kind of structures on the site, and opportunities for passive rec were kind of the main tiers of different things we looked at. We had multiple discussions with staff, then kind of presented a scenario, and in that discussion, it was decided that we should look at an event space on this site. So that took us kind of a few months more, or a couple months more, to kind of develop that design. In that kind of addition of the event space, we did a second site visit to really confirm the placement of the buildings, as well as better understand some of the requirements for the ecological restoration, and ultimately have the final plan to kind of share with you all today. This is a schematic design, which basically means we're, more thought through than a master plan. We've put prices to things, have kind of graded things out, but we're not to the point where drawings are ready to go out to bid. There'll be kind of additional work to get to that point. But this does give us a great kind of basis of design and budget moving forward. A little bit of the kind of site context. I think you're all familiar. This 77-acre site is located south of Cleveland Lake. And then you have the different schools just to the north of the site. And basically, when you kind of place a dot within the middle of the site, that's about a 10-minute walk to those schools. And then the whole site itself kind of can be encompassed within a 5-minute walking radius. Granted, that doesn't account for sort of slope and winding trails, but as the crow flies, that's kind of a general tool we use to look at walking distance. Some of the existing conditions we looked at were the topography of the site, basically the high point, which is kind of on the west edge of the property, is about 70 feet higher than the lake. And the map on the right just shows different colors of slopes. Basically, the majority of the site is that kind of purple, which is kind of a medium slope. So we're looking at, areas that are maybe too steep for buildings or don't have positive drainage. We also looked at the floodplain, obviously wanting to keep any permanent structures out of the floodway or floodplain, and then kind of looked at some of the USGS soil service maps to sort of point to issues for structures, and we didn't really find anything. Moving on, we do some geotechnical borings, things like that, to confirm all that. The general land cover of the site is about half of the lower part of the site. That 77 acres is ag land, a little bit more than that, and then the other kind of 40% is woodlands. And then around the lake itself, there are some areas of kind of prairie that have been established. And then we also looked at utilities, thinking about how we bring infrastructure into the site. So sanitary and water running down Cleveland Avenue on the east. We also have water on the south side of the site. And then the majority of the other utilities, gas, electrical, are also running on the Cleveland Avenue side. So with that, I'll kind of turn over to Will to talk about some of the designs, and then I'll kind of close it out to talk about the design of the event space in particular. So.
All right, thanks, Lance. So we're looking back at those 4 themes that Lance mentioned earlier. So early on, we started to organize the program in these 4 themes of agricultural heritage, nature and ecology, passive recreation, and the structures that should be on site. And this was an exercise that we worked through with staff to prioritize the program structures and other elements that would be placed on the site in the final design as they relate to some of those early goals. So we went through a process of some initial sketches to figure out some of the relationships and amount of trail and other things. And these are great discussion tools early on because they let us figure out what's working, what's not. The final design incorporates elements from both of these. But concept 1 on the left there is really more of the idea that we went with, and it very much follows that early sketch that we showed on the first couple slides that we had reviewed, where we have this central kind of active hub with a structure and programming and lots of things all together, activating the center of the site, and then moving on through the site to at the time we were thinking of this dual kind of amphitheater educational space, but those ideas were refined, and so we wound up in this scheme where, as we were combining things, this is a bubble diagram where we just established these different zones where the different program elements should be. So going kind of top left to bottom right, that passive recreation and ecological restoration area with lots of trails and observation tower and focus on nature and environmental education. The visitor center, that orange arrow is kind of the main drive that comes in and takes you to that visitor center. That's kind of the launch point where you can get access to a lot of different trail types. And then the event space, park hub, and performance lawn are all together. So that's that concentration of different ideas where we've got a multi-purpose building with flexible outdoor amenities. That's where a lot of your parking and drop-off is going to be. The park hub includes a small pavilion and restroom with a playground, community gardens, and then the performance lawn has this amphitheater. So the park hub connects the event space and this performance lawn together with the other elements of community gardens. And then as well, we have a maintenance hub that's a little bit more on the secondary drive, the purple, which obviously is going to have your maintenance building, storage, and other facilities needed to support the operations of the site. So this is the final plan rendering, and we're going to break this down. But basically, at a really high level, this just starts to show that the way the site is organized with all the different trails, pumpkin patch, orchard, sunflower field there concentrated around the main hub in the bottom right. And then as you move to the top left, you've got more wooded areas. So the visitor center is kind of tucked between that patch of wooded area and the lake. And then moving into that passive recreation area with lots of trails and more ecological restoration. So we're going to break this down. So this first diagram is about circulation. So off of Cleveland there, you're entering into the site on the main drive. There's a large parking lot with 130 spaces, including accessible. There is another catering entry that has a few more additional parking spots for staff or others that are operating the building during events. And then that main drive carries through to another parking lot with an additional 22 spaces that serves the visitor center and kind of that trail hub. And then if we look south at that secondary drive, what we identified is, in conversations throughout the design process is that there's this idea that, at least several times a year, there's going to be larger events for that amphitheater. So the idea is that instead of building, a bunch of parking lot, we've got a lot of slope and drainage and things that we were looking at in our analysis. The idea is that that is a warm season grass mixture converted over to that, so that when you need that extra parking space several times a year, you can mow out what you need, and that's a grass mix that can kind of take that. Otherwise, you're looking at that warm season grass field that accentuates the more natural character of the site while providing that additional parking and flexibility when you need it. There are a couple things that kind of stem off from this. We'll look at that in other diagrams that are more enlarged, but there is additional kind of service access to that amphitheater for AV or equipment or other things to get in there as needed. And then another thing to note in the top right, there's about 30 existing parking spots, and we know that there's future development that's going to include more parking on this site. So at least in the design as is, plus the existing 30, we'd have 830 total spots plus what's going to be developed in the future. And then this breaks out the trails. So the darkest trail that you see kind of running along the more western edges of the property, that is an accessible asphalt trail. So we thought it was really important with the existing walks to the north and what we're proposing with all these loops around the park development to provide a larger accessible loop through the entire site so that you could do that no matter your ability, making sure that that's accessible. So that connects up with what's existing, and then the proposed concrete loops that again encapsulate the pumpkin patch and the event lawn and park hub and all these other things going on in the site. The orange is the nature trails. So there's varying widths, there's varying materials. Those could be mowed when they're in the savanna or prairie. They could just be dirt if they're in the woodland. Those are meant to be that nature trail experience going through all these different nature restoration areas, and then a little bit of boardwalk proposed down near the lake. So we're going to look at some enlargements. Just wanted to lay out how those are organized and where we're looking at. There's a little key where you can kind of keep track of where we are, but just wanted to lay out, we'll kind of look at the passive recreation, the lake, the event, and then Lance will wrap up by zooming in onto the event space. So again, we're in that passive recreation zone, and oh dear, well, I got ahead of ourselves there. Oh, I'm hitting the keyboard, there we go. All right, so on the right we have some images that you can really think of more as a mood board. These are things that we talked with staff about and kind of worked through just the feel and the character. But really this is that zone with environmental education, lots of trails, so going for a walk or a hike, supporting environmental education, and down getting by the water there, that number 6 kind of to the northern portion of this area. Really wanted to facilitate a lot of different interactions with the woodland, the savanna, the wetland areas and drainage, so that there's a lot of exposure to all the variety that the site can offer. And then the observation tower, number 3, is located close to that visitor center, so you can kind of park and get there. And that observation tower is meant for wildlife viewing or just a really fun vantage point on this site, especially with all the topography and trails and different things going on. And like I mentioned earlier, as we get further into design, a lot of these details will be determined, but for now what we're thinking is that there's a variety of widths of pathways, so that could be a little bit narrower at 6 feet, they could be wider at 10 feet with a buffer, so these aren't necessarily all kind of that same experience. Again, we wanted to provide variety there. And so this is what that looks like from the overhead. So you can see the visitor center there. We'll look at that a little bit more closely in a second. But some pieces I just wanted to pull out from this, in addition to the observation tower that's kind of there in the center and the visitor center, we're thinking that there's several picnic shelters along the different trails. So just stopping points along the way that you can either rest or have lunch or just enjoy the views and the site. as you go. And then this also shows the relationship of the visitor center and the lake, as well as that boardwalk. So that's kind of a, low wetland point. We're thinking a lot, as Lance mentioned, about water quality, and so this boardwalk would be paired with perhaps, kind of wetland improvements to help improve drainage and water quality for the lake as well. And now we're looking at that top right portion. So with the visitor center, this area, a large portion of the zone that we're looking at is part of Cleveland Lake Regional Park as it is today. But some of the areas that, are adjacent to what we were studying is really where that existing prairie restoration is. So there's this strip there that we think has some fairly good vegetation, and we want to, obviously manage that and maintain that into the future. But the idea is that you expand that and add some nature loops in there. That helps establish connectivity throughout the site. And, you can launch from that either, if you're coming from the event space to the bottom of the image, or if your start off point is more the visitor center. One thing that I do want to point out with this is that we know that there are existing disc golf holes on this site. The majority of those do not have to move. I believe with the event space there might be a slight shift in where that is, but we purposefully were trying to maintain that disc golf course where it is. So those are not going away by any means, but I do want to make sure to note that we know those are there and that they are included in these plans for the future. And so we're looking at that here as you come along that entry drive. You're above eye level here, but you can kind of imagine that the entry drive comes through those woods a little bit and it opens back up into this view. You can see the visitor center and the lake. The visitor center right now is a little bit more of a generic structure. And it does include a terrace and some other elements. We've thought about the program of that, but it hasn't gone through the full design effort like the event space has. I just want to note that. Again, we kind of know the scale of it and the program, which I'll mention here, but in terms of materials and things like that, we're showing it more generically, but it should borrow from the things that we've established through the design of the event space, which does, you'll see here in a moment, offer quite a bit of detail on what that final design is. So again, from a program perspective, this was an early sketch that we did to kind of talk about the terrace and the relationship of things. So there's a little bit of difference between that and what you're seeing in the image. The section sketch basically just talks about this idea that we're thinking that sustainable systems are part of this in terms of having a green roof. That helps it kind of blend in with the topography along with this kind of 3-foot wall on the back there. We're trying to lay this in a little bit. The event space really takes this idea to the next level, but we wanted to repeat that here. And also, if you're looking at this visitor center from across the lake, we want to kind of minimize that visual footprint and make it look like it really belongs in the site. So with that, collecting rainwater for irrigation and really be a demonstration of how all these different natural systems are coming together on the site. You can see that in the building and then go out and explore the trails and that kind of relationship. So with the visitor center program, we're thinking office and restroom. Educational space will make up the majority of this. So, if you are a student coming here, Lance mentioned the school programs, you might come here for, classroom learning or, a presentation or something like that. This space could also host much smaller, lectures if there's a naturalist that wants to talk about all the different flora and fauna on the site or something like that. That would be the main activator of the visitor center. A small gift shop, it could sell local preserves, jams, honeys, that sort of thing, and really build on some of the agricultural products and showcase those for the area. And then some other supporting ideas. We got to have storage and AV and mechanical for all of these systems and functions for the building. So again, we've established that footprint. We know what's going on here, and we know that it'll borrow from the event space. character. So getting into that park hub to start to kind of launch into that event space discussion, this is really where, a lot of the activity is going on. So as you enter from Cambridge there on the right and you drive through, you'll see, you'll start to see on your left, there's a pumpkin patch, but as you enter in, you're kind of framed by these different prairie restoration areas with walking loops around them. And then you'll, on your right, you'll have the event space. And again, that, in the images that we've shown, we've tested out this idea of a wedding, but that could host a number of events, and that has a number of flexible amenities associated with it. The parking lot, again, that is 130 spaces, and that also serves this park hub. So the item number 1 there is greenhouse and raised beds. So there is a requirement laid out that there should be greenhouses that can support demonstration food production here, raised beds that people could use. So you enter in that, and then across from that, there's this small kind of supporting nature playground. So the idea isn't that this is a huge destination playground. It's something that's meant to have that character of nature play. Perhaps the play forms, speak to local wildlife. But the idea is like, if you're in between things in an event or something like that, and kids need to burn off some energy, there's just a small play space to kind of support and take them to do that. And then there would be a small restroom and shelter that supports that. And then this is also the area with these walking loops that different botanical gardens featuring, Missouri native plants and other specimens would be along this path with interpretive signage and things like that. I mentioned the pumpkin patch. Close to that, number 6, is a demonstration orchard. So this isn't necessarily the final size or design of that orchard, but it's to test out the idea of that orchard with different kinds of fruiting trees. If there's success with that, that could easily grow into some of this other space as needed. But for now, we're just kind of showing that demonstration size. And then number 4 is the amphitheater with that lawn that serves it. So the sizing of that would be about 600 people in kind of a picnic configuration is what we were shooting for event size. And then to the south, we have that service access, but we also have the sunflower field. So sunflower fields, they have their peak season, and so we kind of were thinking about how can we take people through that with the walking loops, but then when it's out of season and it's, fallow and not peaking, that's kind of, part of that is tucked behind the wooded area, but then we also have it kind of wrapping around that draw so that when it is in peak season, it can be this, really beautiful backdrop to that amphitheater space. And then the maintenance building is just off Cambridge there. So this is looking at that in more of a 3-dimensional aerial view. You can, start to see the different pieces that we just talked about. Starting from the bottom left, the sunflower field, the amphitheater and lawn, and then the kind of secondary lawn behind that is pointing to the community gardens and nature play spaces, and then how all of that sort of starts to point toward the lake and the relationship there. So with that, I'll turn it back over to Lance to talk about the event space.
So we're going to kind of zoom in even a little bit more on the event space. So kind of just moving a little bit to the north where that main parking lot Will talked about. You see that on the left. So this is basically the entrance into that event space. So you see that kind of circular courtyard outside of it. We have kind of a informal walking trail and some nice planting beds out front there too. And with the design of this building, some of that takes some of the inspiration from Belton's round barn. So that kind of main space is that circular structure, but obviously we're doing things a little bit more refined and contemporary than a barn with the space, and you'll kind of see that as we move through some of the renderings. So, and really, Will talked about the visitor center in terms of that, trying to take advantage of the lake view. Obviously, we're doing that with the event space too, thinking based on this position, it gives you a great kind of overlook to the lake to the north. We have a kind of drop-off area just to the east of the entry. That's enough to kind of accommodate school buses if you're having more of the educational type events, as well as sort of, wedding venue or other parking. And then, for kind of catering and other back of house stuff, we basically placed kind of a service drive that's sunken down at the lower level of the building. That's what you see kind of on the right hand of this image. So moving on into the building itself. So you can see that main entry kind of on the lower middle there. So you enter into the upper level of the building. You have that kind of entry lobby, as well as kind of a pre-function space that overlooks that circular event space. And on this upper level, you have kind of a bride and a groom space on each side of the entry. That includes some dressing room, restrooms, just kind of lounge space, as well as an outdoor dining terrace and balcony for them on either side. We also have some, restrooms, kind of family wellness rooms, as well as kind of admin offices. And then you have the elevator that would take you down to the lower level, or that kind of curved staircase as well, taking you down to the lower level. So moving down into that lower level, most of that's really dedicated to, restroom, storage, mechanical. And then we do have kind of the catering kitchen that's accessed off that sort of sunken service area on the east. And so, this plan is sort of set up with tables and chairs. You'll see, some other images, more kind of rows for wedding, but that gives you kind of an idea of that space. We also have an outdoor terrace that sort of wraps that building. That's that kind of line outside of that. So that's covered with a canopy. So, when the weather's right, you can kind of expand out into that space. And this lower level is really where you kind of disperse out into the site and the different outdoor spaces that we'll talk about a little bit later. So that kind of orange arrow you see in the middle of the circle there, this next slide is going to show you a view of that space. So this is a rendering of that interior image. You can see that kind of circular form. We're taking some inspiration, from the wood of a barn and the kind of warmth that provides, but obviously doing it a little more contemporary. And you can see there's a lot of opportunity for different lighting and decor within the space. And then the wood slats, besides those kind of providing that warmth, also that has a nice kind of acoustic treatment within there too, to help with the acoustics of the space. So we're going to kind of move on from an interior image to talk about some of the exterior spaces around the event space. So
can I jump in there and just point out, can you go back to that? Yeah. So can you explain to the board the technology of the sun lighting with this, as far as depicting like a 4 to 5 o'clock wedding, and how that's resembled in the photo? Because I think that's important for them to maybe.
Yeah, this would be, probably more like this view's more like a midday or kind of late afternoon wedding. So you can see, we're getting a lot of daylight at that time of the day. We'll look at some of the another rendering that kind of looks at the outdoor view of the exterior as well. But basically that's kind of what this rendering's looking at, is that kind of late afternoon, probably kind of wedding in terms of kind of the light you could expect in that, with some daylight coming through those windows. So does that kind of touch on what?
Does it adjust? I guess more sunlight coming in, does it adjust how the sunlight comes in, or does it change am I making sense of that?
I think so. I mean, daylight will definitely impact the lighting of the space, and then the interior lighting will be adjusted to sort of accommodate that. But there's not necessarily anything like on the windows or like louvers that sort of adjust how that light comes in, other than sort of the overhangs and canopies around the building. So, yep. Good question though. So if there's not any on the interior, sort of moving to the outdoor. So this is, the entries on the kind of bottom of the slide in the middle. This is sort of that lower level, so you can see that covered terrace around the event space. On the kind of right side is that service drive, or kind of sunken service drive. We have a wall that sort of screens that drive from the main spaces here. And that kind of flexible courtyard to the right, that includes a large fireplace, water feature, and that's kind of the hub of activity outside. You could have outdoor dining there. That's where dancing occurs. And then next to that is a jewel box greenhouse. So kind of speaking to some of the agricultural heritage, but a little bit more refined building, thinking that could be a great space for an outdoor bar. And then just to the north of that, or up the page, is a game yard, so allowing kind of a space for people to, play cornhole or other games on some synthetic turf, and even just sit down and lounge on that turf too. And then we provide a kind of flexible hardscape area that you could set up for an outdoor wedding, so kind of the same capacity as inside if you want to have it outdoors. We have those kind of trees that are framing your view to the lake to the north, kind of just a flexible lawn space for people to spill out onto. And then whereas that kind of right courtyard is kind of the hub of activity, that left courtyard is a little more passive, it's more intimate, kind of small scale. So if you need to kind of get away from the crowds or have a quiet moment, we have kind of some benches and sculpture and a water feature surrounded by planting beds over there. So the next view we're going to show you shows kind of the exterior of the building and some of that outdoor space. You can see that orange arrow in the kind of upper right of the page. That's sort of where that is looking back at the building. And this is going to be a night view. So you can see the lighting with this space kind of, spilling out into this is basically that yard game lawn. Kind of behind it in the distance, you can see the fireplace and kind of the crowds of people gathered there. That jewel box kind of bar is on the left, that kind of greenhouse looking structure. And with this, you can see that kind of round form of the building, is a lot more prominent from this side. This is what would be sort of looking towards the lake. You can see that kind of covered terrace and patio. And just provides kind of a great sort of atmosphere in the evenings out in that courtyard space, as well as in the afternoons too. So, so with that, I'll give it to Will to run the animation.
How did I do this earlier? There we go. All right, so working title for the signage here. There's no decisions been made, but we wanted to have something in there. And this is about 43 seconds. I may need to run it twice for you all, but we'll just sit back and enjoy the rendering here.
So this sort of started, yeah, if you're going to talk. I was. Okay. Coming off of Cleveland, you're walking up to or kind of driving up to the event space. You see that on the right here, kind of overlooking that back area to the lake. Now we're sort of moving from the event space over to the visitor center, and then kind of looking back at that west area of the site, the observation tower. Now we're kind of moving away from that observation tower and sort of looking over kind of the rest of the site there. This is the kind of park hub, so you see the playground, greenhouses, sort of moving over to the kind of venue again. So we'll run that again.
Everybody caught it that time. Everybody caught it that time. Patrick, we ran over somebody.
Yeah, that visitor center sort of nestles itself in the woods there.
Research how Belton people drive.
And, you know, in this park hub, that's where a lot of the sort of planting beds and showier flower beds.
Looks good.
You guys have any questions? Some of you have asked kind of what our next steps are. Well, the first step is our bylaws require us to name this facility within 1 year of land that's donated. So over the course of the next 3 weeks, we're going to be going through that process, which will involve community input. And so I think Alan might be running a piece in the paper this week, and then we'll have some stuff out on social media where we're asking members for feedback, and then we will present the information to the park board at the May meeting, and so that we're within compliance of our bylaws for naming a new park. So,
Go ahead.
One question at the moment. How many people will fit in the event center? I forgot.
it's right about 300. That's inside.
Just questioning. Do you know how many people went to the the prom this year? Just curious.
I have no earthly idea. I'm going to say probably 500.
It's too bad. I'd like to
I
keep
see
it.
where you're going. Go ahead.
Brian, I have to say, what a nice nod to the Round Barn and a very nice nod to Jack Dryden too. So I appreciate you taking that into consideration. It's a beautiful, beautiful facility.
I don't know if everybody knows, but Jack has been part of this process from day one in meetings with the architects. He had hired, ironically enough, he had hired an architect to start a schematic prior to the land being donated to the city, and it's actually an architect that I've worked with in my prior city. And so we took a lot of those renderings and incorporated into this, and then Jack and I and the staff and Alan, was that yesterday? Yeah, yesterday, came and talked about it, and there's going to be a nice write-up in the paper this week. So,
Well, I will say that I had plenty of conversations with Mr. Dryden about the Round Barn for this whole process, so thank you very much.
Alex?
well, I'll say it has been well worth the wait. I can see why it took so long to kind of get all this pulled together, because that was a lot. Thank you for that presentation. I do have a couple of questions. One is regarding the disc golf. Do we know who designed our course? Yes. His first name's Eric. Okay, well, we don't have to get into it, but so I guess my question would be, or not question, I guess more of a comment would be, I just, as someone who's been well involved in that community previously, and I guess currently, what I would just suggest we do is make sure that we involve the appropriate stakeholders there, and potentially the person who designed it originally. It sounds like there needs to be some movement of 1 or 2 holes. It sounds. I mean, I can see where it is, and I know where the course is, so I can, appreciate that they mentioned that. And then I guess the other question I have, which I know I kind of mentioned to you already, but the idea behind, so the pumpkin patch and the orchard, while themselves are not novel ideas or, something that unrealistic to see in a plan like this, I also know that we have a pretty well-pronounced business south of here, and so I just want to talk, I guess, get your thoughts on why we are looking to put those in. Sure. So part of that was some of Jack's vision for the property, but also we have a function, a special event in October
I had forgotten about this when we talked the other day, that we actually try and provide every child that comes to that event a small pumpkin. And so when you look at the two pieces of property, it's a much different scale. I know we were talking about being competition to, for-profit businesses, and that certainly isn't our intent. I mean, I think that's like a 3 or 4 acre plot of pumpkins, and so it's just something to support another special event that I had forgotten about when we talked at the Arbor Day celebration the other day.
Perfect, and exactly why I'm bringing that up is I don't want there to be a thought out there that we're trying to compete with that business, because I think it's well established and well loved in the area, quite frankly. And the only other thing I'll say is, looking through our comprehensive plan survey results, number one was the thing that we heard about was walking trails, which clearly this has a lot of, which is awesome. Number two was more marinas, so we have to build a lake. I don't know how that's going to happen. Number three is an amphitheater, which this has. And number four was a large playground, which I understand this isn't a large playground, but hey, it's got a playground involved in it. So it seems like you're hitting on all cylinders there.
Yeah.
So.
And we're just now starting our comprehensive plan over the next year, and I assure you that playgrounds are going to show up. We have some pretty aged playgrounds, and so we're pretty much on task to replace a playground for the next 4 years.
Oh, and one other thing I thought of, sorry.
Fine, go ahead.
It didn't look like on the renderings that it included our new trail that's, I know, yet to be done, but from Country View Park in there. So that's just another added walking piece that will exist, I thought I'd point out, so.
Yeah, and I'm not sure if it's been communicated, that trail is open. It's been cleared and it's open now.
Oh,
so.
even better, so, okay.
Yeah, one of our, Kevin Feedback, who's our assistant director, he opened that up last week in a matter of 6 hours.
Awesome.
So.
Go ahead.
There sounds like there's a lot of educational, a lot of opportunities for people to come out there and not just walk around, but learn things. Have you looked at what type of staffing it's going to take to maintain that?
Well, yes, we have. We don't know an exact number, but I wouldn't imagine it'd be anything less than 2 or 3.
Just curious.
And we are on board with Belton High School. One of the classes has already been out. They're going to help us tag the trees and inventory the existing trees. Our goal is to raise our arboretum to a level 3. We're at level 2 right now, and so once we achieve level 3, that will take 500 species of trees, and so that's one of the goals of the property as well.
Did you say 500?
500 different species.
Go ahead.
The private property right next to the Dryden line, has that guy been good to work with? I've heard he's a nice guy, but.
He didn't like my initial idea of putting primitive camping on the property line.
Maybe we can turn the amphitheater, direct it right towards his house possibly.
Yeah, we, maybe face it right that way,
Go ahead.
That was my second time seeing the presentation, and it didn't lose any of its luster. This is really exciting. There's so much potential, and it makes me think back to the beginning of our meeting when Emily said, we like to ask, wouldn't it be cool if?
Yeah.
And this is one of the big wouldn't it be cool ifs. So thanks to everybody that put in hard work, and Jack Dryden and his family for the land. I'm really excited to see how this develops.
To answer your question, 312 kids. Go ahead.
Who's on it?
We can make that work.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking.
I'm good that way. I know people.
Now I'm old, remember, you should not have changed my, ow! I forgot my question now. I'll think of it after he leaves.
Anybody else?
Oh, and I know what it is.
I knew it would. That's why I said it. Go ahead.
So let's just pretend money's there. Okay? What is the time frame from getting it done? Because
So
I know you don't want to do it in stages.
Right. So the process we've talked about is this summer and fall, we're gonna develop some of the trail systems, the nature trail systems. Our goal is to start some development so that Jack can experience it. That's important to us. And after that, the project will actually lay low for a little bit, and it will be incorporated into the master plan while this process is going on the next year. Our current debt service project is scheduled to be paid off in 26 and 27. Our goal is to pay that all off in next year's fiscal year. And so while all that's going on next year, we would start with some of the, the contract documents or the bid process and getting some of the contractual documents in place and prioritizing what the next 10 years look like. So to answer your question, I'm thinking probably 3 to 5 years to be fully completed and operational.
One question.
Anybody else?
Yeah, one question real quick.
Go ahead, go ahead.
Is your intention to use primarily native plants, flowers, and trees in the park areas?
Yes. Yeah, and that will be part of the educational center, is that is to teach these kids or the visitors where these are coming from. One other neat idea is Jack has welcomed the idea that we take some of his plant-based pharmaceutical memorabilia or some of his static displays that he's got in his museum and put that out there in the visitor center to kind of keep the Dryden name alive. Yeah.
I definitely think, however we name it, whatever we do, we need to do something for him, and so he's always there.
Yep.
If that makes sense.
Yeah, I mean, I'll throw out, I got no problem with incorporating his name in the official name. In fact, I would encourage it, but even if that doesn't happen, I agree, there needs to be some type of mention or memorial of some
Yep.
type.
Anybody else?
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. All right, item L, motion to enter an executive session, to discuss matters pertaining to legal actions according to Missouri State Statute 610.2021.1 pertaining to leasing, purchase, sale of real estate according to Missouri State Statute 610.021.2 and pertaining to negotiated contracts according to Missouri State Statute 610.021.12, and the record be closed and the meeting adjourned from there.
Present.
Second.
A motion in 37 seconds. Any discussion? Hearing none, roll call.
Councilmember Richardson?
Aye.
Thompson?
Yes.
Bryan?
Aye.
Davidson?
Yes.
Johnson?
Aye.
White?
Aye.
Lawson?
Aye.
McCallum?
Aye.
Mayor Larkey?
Motion passes, yes.